Welcome to the Beauty Business Strategies Podcast. I'm Christy Hardy, and I am completely honored to be here today with April McDaniel with Kopsa Otte to talk about something that is a really important topic and concern and excitement, all of the above for anyone in our beauty industry. And that is the new tax credits and new tax laws around tips. So, April, thank you for joining me today. I am always honored to be in any room with
Of
you,
course.
even if it's a
Thank
Zoom
you.
room.
Thanks so much. Honor for me to be here.
Love it. April is, for those of you who don't know our partnerships or our friendships, April is a true confidant for strategies. She is our go-to for anything that is related to understanding taxes at a better way. She and her team at Kopsa Otte just have always been so impactful and knowledgeable, and we appreciate you so much. So
Well, thank
always
you.
glad to have you.
Yeah, we
Um,
love strategies. We love
yeah,
to
thank you.
teach and
Thank
we
you.
love the people. And, this really is a service industry. Whether you're touching clients with your hands because you're actually a technician or you're in the business of being a business coach or an advisor. And I think that's why Kopsa Otte and Strategies gets together and does such great things together is because we both truly believe in serving people. So
That's for
it's good.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks for
absolutely.
having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. All right, so let's dive in. So, I am now working in my role at Strategies. I'm not in the day-to-day with the salons quite as much. Used to run a salon for many, many years and had the challenges of tip reporting and teaching my team the importance of making sure that all tips are recorded. So before we even dive into the tax credit, I know this is like a tender area for some people, but I think it's important that we take 1 second to talk about, do stylists, estheticians, anyone in this service industry, beauty service industry, do they need to report their tips, even if they're cash versus credit card?
100%. Christy, this is a black and white issue. Even if
Yeah.
people want to act like it's not, it is very black and white, very clear in the tax code. 100% of tips that someone receives is considered income. If you're a solo artist and you're self-employed, then it's self-employment income. If you're an employee, it goes on your W-2. It is part of your income. And the reality of it is it diminishes the value of this industry when we don't do it right. Because
Agree.
what happens is, we have powers that be that get to decide what schools get student loans, and they don't think people make any money in this industry. And so there's this review process happening right now that may restrict cosmetology schools and massage therapy schools
Yeah.
from getting student loan aid because they think, why give them any money to do this? They don't make any money. And the reality is you can make a 6, 7 figure income doing this, but it's because we're not being honest. And
Yes.
we have to be honest about it. And then the other thing, the other incentivized piece of it, I think, is, you know, you go to draw on Social Security or Medicaid when you become disabled, God forbid, or just get to that age where you want to retire and get Social Security and Medicaid. If you haven't put it in, you don't get it, and so
Right.
you're reducing what you're putting in. You're also limiting the ability to get home loans and car loans and all of those things. So, I can, Christy, where I sit on this
Yeah, I
issue,
do.
and
I
I
sit right there with you.
yeah, and I can preach about it all day long. But the reality is it's the right thing to do. It's the
Yeah.
law. And I'm a W-2 earner. I pay tax on every dollar that I make. And that means that I am fully engaged in supporting everything that our taxes support. And I don't think it's fair that someone else doesn't do that. So, you know, get on the bus and let's all
Yes.
work together.
Yeah.
Let's have a little party and everybody do it right. The other thing that it does is it creates a uniform system between you and the hair place down the street or the massage place down the street. If everybody does it right, then we don't run into this issue where we have employees that are skipping places and moving around because they're told they don't have to pay taxes on their tips, one
Yes,
place
so
versus the
true.
other. So it takes away that it's really not a competitive thing because it's the law, but we
Right.
do have salon owners that are using it in a competitive way. And
Yes.
it's not you shouldn't be doing that. So thanks for letting me get on my soapbox for a minute
I'm happy to,
about compliance.
I
And
knew what your answer was going to be
yeah,
before I even asked the question because I feel that way too. I think it's really important and honestly, quick little stories. When I was in my salon and spa, I had one person who got into a car accident and had to claim disability, and I remember her saying to me, she was very honest with me, and she used to write in some of her cash tips, um but she said, Christy, at the end of the day, I didn't write in all my tips. Can I do it now? And I said, no, you can't.
you
Like,
can't.
no, you can't get credit for this now. Um, and then when it came to even, COVID hitting
Hmm.
and having to lay off 28 people in one day
Right.
and had to teach my team what it meant to be on unemployment and all of these things. And the same question came
Yep.
up, and I said, I'm sorry that the preaching that we've done of really making sure you're compliant and sharing this information with you
Yep.
literally quarterly. We shared the information, didn't resonate until the emergency hit. And
Mhm.
I think at that point, everyone's light bulb really, really went off where they were like, you know what? If something traumatic does happen again, we need to be prepared.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I hate to use the fear factor, but it's, it is, like you said, it's fairness, it's the law. And it's something that we really need to be compliant with.
Yeah.
And I think this tax credit is the perfect time to continue that conversation of making sure people are compliant because people can't get these tax credits if they're not doing things properly,
Right.
right?
Right.
So something that for anyone who hasn't, you should definitely watch April's podcasts. You probably can get them right on your website or right on through your webinars, not your podcast, because you were very educational in sharing what the difference between the two portions of this law are. Can we talk first about the individuals? Like, what are the service providers? What is this tax credit?
Mhm.
When do they see the benefit of this? Like, let's talk about the individual first.
The employee first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the employee first, they are eligible for a $25,000 deduction on their
Okay.
tax return for tips that they have received. And those tips have to be properly recorded on the W-2.
Okay.
So in the correct box on the W-2 to show it as tip income. And then it's a direct reduction to their income on the tax return. Now, there are a couple things to think about. First, you mentioned it. It's not an immediate benefit. It's something that has to happen when they do their tax return. So, I think there has been some misunderstanding or possibly just in the different renditions of the bill, it changed over time on how it was going to
Yeah.
be done. But the $25,000 tip deduction will be something that as an employee, you're going to work with your tax preparer on. If you're
Okay.
using TurboTax or if you're using some other system to file your tax return and you're doing it on your own, you're going to need to know how to answer those questions when you're going through
Mm,
that tax return. And there is matching documents that the IRS will look for, like I said, where it's at on the W-2. If you happen to be self-employed, you also qualify for this 25,000 tip deduction as a self-employed worker
oh, good.
in the tipping industry. You also qualify, but you do need to keep good records as far as what was tips and what was, for the service, what you got for the service. And that's not something that you've had to do before because if you're self-employed, all of that income really comes into one bucket and it's
Right.
all taxed the same as far as self-employment income. So it is a little bit different if you're self-employed to keep track of it. But for our W-2 earners, it's really quite straightforward. You're going to give your W-2 to your tax person like you always have. Whatever your tip amount is, up to $25,000, you'll get a deduction for that. Now, if you're a high wage earner, let's say you make $150,000, it does start to phase out for you. So it does get reduced.
Okay.
It's $100 for every $1,000 that you're over the threshold. So let's say you
Okay.
make 160,000, you're 10,000 over, it's going to be reduced by, $100 for every thousand. That's $1,000 that it's
And
reduced for.
that's so just for calculation's sake, just for clarity for myself. So when you're saying the earning, that is if you're you're a W-2 employee, whether it's commission or hourly, plus the tips initially. So if it was $100,000 in income plus $50,000 income that is tips,
Mhm.
that's your 150,000
Yes, yes.
versus.
And it could be
Okay.
some other things, the IRS is still issuing final guidance on these things. The bill gets passed and then the IRS has to make changes to forms and all of that, and the law has to be written. So, um, it's what it says is modified adjusted income. So there's a chance that that also includes interest income. It might include
Okay.
foreign income, things like that. And so that's why it's going to be important that you know how to answer the questions if you're doing your own return or if you're going to a CPA. More importantly, maybe this year is the year to do that, is to
That's
actually
what I was just going to say. I
but
think
they
I
can
would decide that I
yeah,
needed a CPA this year.
they can help you, do that and make sure that you get it right. Um, so those are really the two biggest things. And then of course to remember that this is a federal deduction. And so,
Yes.
it's not assumed that the state is also going to give you this $25,000 deduction. It's possible that they won't. Each state has to
Okay.
decide what they're going to do. And keep in mind you still owe FICA tax on it. So the Social
Okay.
Security and Medicare tax still applies to this amount. Two other things. If you're married and you decide to file separately, you're no qualify.
Oh,
So if you're married, you have to file joint,
okay.
or you don't qualify for this. You also don't qualify for the no tax on overtime. If you've heard about that, that's not as much of a deal in this industry. But just to bring that up, if you're married, you have to file jointly. Otherwise, you don't qualify for those two things. And then
Interesting.
yeah, so definitely something to be thinking about. And then the other thing is this $25,000 deduction is applicable for calendar year 25 through
Okay.
2028. So this deduction is something that's right now set to be temporary. So we have to think a little bit about that. Um,
Mm.
it's interesting. It's kind of like, I don't know, you owned your own business. And so when you give people something and you try to take it away, it's like you're cutting their fingers off, right? So the same thing happens in government. Once they give something like this, it's really hard for them to take it away. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of ongoing debate about it when it comes about in 2028. But it is important that people know that this one, in particular, is set to expire. So
Okay. All right. We're like testing the waters, it sounds like.
yeah, and I think that they're doing this to try to increase compliance. They
Yeah.
they want
Yes.
people to be reporting it. They don't want the story like what you're sharing about somebody not being able to get enough of disability. They don't
Yeah.
want that story. They don't,
Yeah.
I think that not only did it open owners' eyes, it opened government's eyes about, people not having enough in unemployment when the time came when they needed it for something. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So true. So true. Yeah, that's a good perspective to have. It's to cover everybody. And it's not a bad thing to have to be compliant and to put your tips in. Like it's just, I don't know.
You
I
should
could
be
get on
proud
that
of it.
soapbox.
You should be
Yes,
proud of it.
exactly.
Just like I'm proud
Exactly.
of where I started versus where I am when I look at the amount of money that I am able to make, you should be proud of it. And the interesting thing is that statistically, when we have cash, we spend it quicker and we don't include it in our overall budget when we consider the things that we want to do. And so, if we put that in our overall budget and we think about our goals and our dreams and what we want for the rest of our lives, then it becomes more of a reality. So, if your dream is to have that perfect pair of pumps that are $600 or $700, well, if you include the tips in your budget, you're going to get there quicker than if you pretend like the tips are just coffee money, you know? Or
Absolutely.
if you want to go on a European vacation, or if your goal is to retire early, or be able to take care of your mom or your dad or a sibling or something. Guys, you got to use good money skills and your tips are
Yes.
part of your budget. So,
That is a good point. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So let's flip the switch a little bit. Let's
Okay.
switch to the owner head.
Yeah.
Um, thank you for clarifying for the individuals. Oh, you know what? As let's make it a little bridge. If you are an owner who's also a service provider, do you get
You
to
can get both.
experience the individual and you're going to get what? Okay, cool. That's
Yeah.
great.
Now, our
Um,
owners typically are making a little bit more money, so they might phase out,
true.
right?
True. True. Some
Typically,
of
if
them.
you're an owner of a business, you have other things going on. You might have real estate income. You might have maybe you're married, and so you have a spouse that's making some money. Typically, if you're an owner, you're a hustler. So you're working on building your empire, right? So there's a chance that you could phase out, but you are eligible for it. You're eligible for the $25,000 deduction. And let me just say this too. If you're married and your spouse also receives tip income, you could be eligible for 50.
Oh, great.
Okay.
That's great. That's good
Yep.
to know.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's pivot a little bit. Tell me
Okay.
about the owner side of
Sure.
it. We're still collecting the same, we're putting it processing the tips through payroll. We're making sure that the taxes are paid, both the employee taxes and the employer's portion of the taxes. So that side stays the same right now. But then what happens? What's this tax credit?
So the tax credit is something that is done on a form on the tax return of the business at the end of the year. So not that the form matters, but it's an 8846. It's been around forever because the restaurant industry has been getting this credit for a really, really long time. I think, gosh, I had the date in my head. I want to say it was early 80s, maybe. It's been a long
Oh,
time.
wow.
And what's really exciting about this, first of all, we should thank the PBA. We should thank all those people that advocated to get this credit. I think it's amazing that it happened, and it just shows the ability that we have as people to lobby together to get what we
Mhm.
need and what we want, right? So we should remember that when we're thinking about other things that are really important in this country, right? So when we think about the FICA tips tax credit, first of all, it's been around for a long time. What happened is that it was expanded to the beauty industry. Um, we have a newsletter that went out, I think yesterday or today, that actually listed the other specific industries that it expanded into. But definitely anyone that's a follower of strategies or of Kopsa Otte as far as the salon and beauty industry is going to be eligible for this. It requires accurate tip records. So again, we have to go back to the compliance and think about how that's getting reported. And there are some forms that the IRS has available if someone's not reporting tips right now that you can use to help your employees do it. But you also can use the softwares that you have. And all of you, I'm sure, that are listening have great softwares. All of them have the ability to report those cash tips in there. If someone's getting Venmo tips, they need to be reporting them to you. If someone's getting tickets to a Broadway show and that's their tip, the dollar amount of that needs to be reported. That's a tip, okay? If you're trading services for the tip, that's a tip. It still counts,
Mhm.
okay? So first of all, the accurate tip reporting has to be there through payroll, then on the 941s and on the W-3 at the end of the year. The information then on the 45B credit is very straightforward. It's the FICA tax and that's the credit. So,
Okay.
the only thing that could be a little bit different, and we don't see this much in the salons that we work with, because most everyone that we work with, even their hourly folks are making over minimum wage. But if you
Mhm.
happen to have somebody that's not making minimum wage and you're trying to use that tip amount to get to the minimum wage, the FICA on that does not count towards this credit. Okay. So
Wow.
we don't see that very rarely ever in the beauty industry in our space here at Kopsa
Yeah.
Otte. But I have had a few people ask me in open forums about that. So I know that it's happening places. But we do see it in the restaurant industry. A lot of times your servers or whoever don't make minimum wage. And so they have the tips have to help them get there. The owner doesn't get the FICA tip tax credit if in fact they're trying to get to minimum wage with those tips.
Okay.
So then what will happen is if you're a pass-through entity, so let's say you're a partnership or an S corporation, then that's going to pass through, that credit actually passes through to your personal income tax and it reduces your tax on your personal side is how that
Oh,
will work. Yeah. So just
Excellent.
like you today pay tax for the business, you're paying that typically personally because it passes through. Now we do have things like pass-through entity tax. We don't have to get to that, but we do have some of that, our PTE tax, where we do get to pay it sometimes at the business level. That's kind of new since the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 18. But never mind that, we're still going to pay that tax. We're still going to get that credit at the personal level when it comes to this
Okay.
credit. And again, there's no max. Okay.
That's great. Okay.
It
That's
is
good to know.
whatever you paid, you can get back. But there, obviously some of those other things that I talked about. So
Yeah. And that's so this is just federal level also. So if
it's
there's some
federal,
certain state taxes, though no credits on that, or state by state, I guess I should say,
right?
right?
Yep, state by state.
Okay. If
Yep.
you had to give like just a little piece of advice to an owner or service provider, or team member this year specifically, it's a brand new kind of thought process on this. What would your advice be?
I think this is the year to become compliant if you've not been compliant, because
Mm,
there's not, you don't have, there's not, there's no risk to you of losing anything. You
yeah,
know,
true.
now I
So
have had questions
another,
about people, if I'd say I'm getting them now and I wasn't getting them before, what
yeah,
does that mean? Well, the reality is that if the IRS didn't have a low number of staff, you'd already be very low hanging fruit and you'd be getting audited now. So
right.
that,
That was going to be my next question because I see it all over different forums where they're like, well, I've been in business for a long time. We haven't been doing this. What is this going to red flag us?
right.
Um,
But my
it,
first comment to that is shame on you.
right.
Shame on you. I see it all the time too, Christy, in these
Right.
public forums on Facebook, people
Yes.
admitting that they are committing tax fraud.
Right.
I mean, come on. Now, it's one thing if you don't know, and I still think that there is a need for education in this space, and
I
I
think
will
so
do it
too.
forever. I absolutely love doing it. And I don't blame someone for not knowing, but at the point where you're making a decision to not do it and you know it's not right, that's an ethical issue. So,
Agree.
yeah.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
know you know this, but for the audience, Kopsa Otte believes in it so much that we will not work with people that are not filing, that are not paying tax on their tips.
Good.
So it is a question that we ask. Now, somebody could lie to me, but I'm going to figure it out because I can look at their W-3s, I can look at their tax return, I can figure it out. But it is, you would have to lie to me in order for me to decide that I was going to work with you for you not to be reporting tips. Otherwise, it's a
Yeah.
requirement for us. So.
I think that's great. I mean, I just think that it levels up the integrity of this industry too. We do get, it's like that old school. This is not a career. It's
Yes.
not you're not, you don't really own a company. Yes, you
Yes,
do. You own a
you
company, you own a business, you have team members, you have employees. Like, let's level up this incredible industry that has just so much continued growth potential and so many smart people. Why are we diminishing what we do and the services we provide? Because it used to be that way. No way. Let's level up.
right,
So
right.
I'm glad you guys do stuff like that because, and it is, like running a business. And full transparency, I tried so hard to make sure everyone was compliant, but you literally can't walk in and go into their purse and count how much cash they put in there, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, we found every which way we could to try to ensure that our teams were compliant in the way that they were sharing their cash tips
Right,
and whatnot. And you know what? It's it's a job in itself to do,
mhm,
but it's the right thing to
right.
do. So, as an owner or as a leader in your business, continuing that conversation shouldn't be scary. It shouldn't be, yes, it can be frustrating, but it shouldn't be something because out of frustration you don't
Right,
do.
right,
And we're leaving money on the table
right,
if we're not compliant, especially now. Maybe this will
right.
be that light bulb moment for everyone that we've actually left money on the table for them.
For sure. And I think that, people are um people are willing to change if you give them the why.
Yeah.
You got to give them the why and then, hopefully they will do it. But The other thing is that at the end of the day, you could just make a policy that says no cash tips, no Venmo tips. None.
Yes. True. True.
Your salon can go no cash, no Venmo. Everything has to run through. And if
Yes.
you're using a product that allows the client to pay the credit card transaction fee, which there are some products out there that do that now. I'm not going to say whether that's right or wrong or legal or not, because that's not my position, but there are some really great software products out there that do that. As an owner, you're not out anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could definitely go to a no cash, no Venmo, PayPal, all those things
Right.
policy.
Right.
And then it's just like if you have a policy that they have to wear closed-toe shoes. If they show up with closed-toe shoes, they get written up, right?
Yeah.
If they don't report their tips or they start using getting cash, and you are going to know it, they get written up. It's the
Yeah.
same process. We just have to be really good business people.
Yes. Yes. Yep. And like you said, like software, even if somebody is paying with cash, you can put the tip onto that software.
Right.
Like we used to do that. We had that ability too. So yeah. Yeah, there's a way to do it. There is a way to do it for sure. This has been very educational. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I always appreciate every conversation I have with you, but I love learning new things and just seeing how we can continue to level up this industry. And for business owners, like the business owner hat or a service provider, because maybe they're thinking about becoming an independent service provider and so owning their own business. But to be able to educate owners and future owners on the right way to do business is so very important. So we appreciate Kopsa Otte's continued efforts alongside us. We will constantly be, flaying those flags of let's make healthy businesses, because healthy businesses grow healthy careers, grow healthy futures. So together we're going to keep doing this, April.
We'll do it. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Christy.
You are so welcome. If anyone who is watching would like to hear more from April or talk to April, I'm going to link her email address and the Kopsa Otte website in our podcast. We would love for you to have those conversations with her or contact us at Strategies. We can absolutely get you in touch as well. And thank you, April. Here's to healthy beauty businesses and continued success for all of them.
Of course. I wish I had a glass of wine.
I know, right? Cheers to my water in my stemless wine glass. Cheers.
Yeah.
All right, April. Thank you so much.